And now the bad news. Roundup is sprayed on oats, wheat, barley, rye, rice, potato fields, sweet potato fields, lentils, mung beans, citrus orchards, grape vineyards, kiwi orchards. It is sprayed throughout our food supply. It is found in its highest concentration, not in GMOs, but in oats. It is sprayed before harvest to dry down the cereals, to force quick ripening, to clean the weeds out for next year, all sometimes 3 to 5 days before harvest. Heavy dose. In oats, it gets absorbed right into the oats. It gets absorbed into the wheat and spread out into the wheat kernel. So you can buy a non-GMO loaf of bread, but be eating glyphosate residues. So the need now is not to simply be non-GMO. The need is to become organic, which doesn't allow either GMOs or Roundup or other chemical toxins. Larry Bolin was interviewed on healing from GMOs and Roundup, and he runs a laboratory in Iowa that tests for glyphosate in foods. And he actually puts on the screen some of his test results, and oats is at the top. And he said, I've created a mnemonic called OWL, O-W-L. Oats, wheat, lentils. Those were the highest he's tested. He will never eat those unless they're organic. We will be publishing soon a compilation of all of the tests done on foods to see where the glyphosate levels are, and all the foods have not been tested. You see, the government tests the levels of other herbicides on all the foods, but not on Roundup, because they have friends in high places in Monsanto. Now, Larry Bolin tested dog urine, and it was at the time 50 times, and then with additional samples it went down to 40 times the amount of glyphosate in human urine. Now it turns out that dogs have the highest rate of cancer of any mammal. I was told as high as 1 out of every 1.6 dogs. And they have 40 times the amount of glyphosate in their urine. And a peer-reviewed published study was published just, I think, last month. A second group did glyphosate testing in urine, found the same thing. We tested dog food and cat food and found levels of glyphosate. And if you go to petsandgmos.com, you can get a list of the pet food that has high levels of glyphosate and GMOs, and how to buy products that are without the GMOs and Roundup. Petsandgmos.com. We think that the high rate of cancer, which is a new phenomenon. If you go on that site, there's a 2-minute video and a 10-minute video with lots of veterinarians talking about this. And they say, we used to not have to deal with cancer in dogs or allergies. And now we deal with it all the time. And what's been changing? Dr. Michael Fox, who's the animal doctor, syndicated columnist with 25 to 30 million readers, 40 books to his credit. He's in a unique position because he gets letters from people all over the country all the time. GMOs were introduced into the human food supply. They became introduced into the pet food supply at the same time. All of a sudden, he gets all these letters from pet parents saying, my dog or cat is now suffering from digestive problems and itching and allergies and intractable diarrhea. He said, get them off of GMOs. He has a file drawer filled with people that told him it worked. Barbara Royal was interviewed, I mentioned her. In a subsequent interview I did with her, she said that 50 to 70% of the pets put on a different diet when they see her, with nothing else done. No supplement, no pill, no shot, just changing the diet, 50 to 70% come back with managed or eliminated symptoms. So that gives you an idea of the level of impact we're seeing. So what I've just done is I've taken you on a tour of GMO dangers, and I stepped a little bit above my pay grade, but not really, because I was quoting others and telling the stories that they had about that extra question, what can we do besides avoiding GMOs and Roundup? And many of them said this over and over again, because they give suggestions for products that they formulated, that they prescribed, that they've used in clinical settings. And they said, if you don't change your diet, these other things may not work or will not work. It's like, without the right food, this is an ancient saying, I think, in Ayurveda, without the right food, the medicine won't work. With the right food, the medicine's not needed. So, if you decide to get this series, and we have a discount of more than 50% for this group, you're going to see recommendations for over 50 different products or foods, sauna detox opportunities, when to exercise in relationship to the sauna. You'll have products that have been shown to decrease glyphosate, close gaps, repopulate the microbiome. Please don't get seduced by thinking it's in the pill and that you can continue to eat GMOs and Roundup and just take the pill and be fine. So if you decide to get this series, you may want to change your diet immediately and see what happens, so that if you get these other things, you can tell the difference as to what's diet related and what's substance or supplement related. But if you're interested, I'll mention it for those that you go to healingfromgmos.com, and if you go into the checkout process, just before you check out, it says promo code. You can put truth as your code for the real truth about health, and it drops more than 50%. And for people in the room, I have some order forms you can fill out if you want. I'll meet you in the back. And if you can't take a picture of this or write it down, you can text the word truth to 38470, and you'll get back immediately the website and the promo code so that you won't forget. So you text truth to the phone number 38470. So it's interesting that this is a departure for me, talking about healing from GMOs. It's a departure for me selling an online course. But what's not a departure for me is helping protect people's lives. I've been told over and over again by parents, sometimes breaking down into tears, that I saved their lives or their kids' lives. I was at MIT speaking there. I asked the audience, as I usually do, tell me what you noticed got better when you switched to a non-GMO or organic diet. And a woman stood up and said, my 6.5-year-old was violent and out of control. They wanted to kick him out of school. I saw your movie, Genetic Roulette. I changed his diet. All the problems went away. I said, how long did it take? She said, 1 week. And then she paused and said, within a month, I had a new son. I was at a conference in California, and someone who was volunteering at the table was a grandmother. And her grandson was always acting out, and she said there were phone calls nearly every day from the school to the parents. And he also had trouble breathing. She saw the film Genetic Roulette and said to her son, talk about being a salesperson. She said, if there's anything you do in your life because I ask you to, watch this film. He watched it, he changed his son's diet, and he no longer had trouble breathing, and he no longer had calls from school, except in the days after he had eaten at the other grandmother's house. So the reaction was quick. I have seen these changes. In fact, these were the kind of things that propelled me to do the film with Amy Hart called Secret Ingredients, which is better than Genetic Roulette. It's more engaging because it introduces, for example, Kathleen DiChiara, whose family had 21 chronic conditions between the 5 of them. And she started to experiment and studied food, and she started to experiment on the family and taking gluten out and preservatives and soy and different things and testing to see what was happening on her family and herself. And after some years, they were still managing 21 conditions, but they were better. And then she learned about GMOs and Roundup, switched to organic, and immediately things that had been plaguing them for years went away. And within just 6 months, it was all gone. They were no longer managing these symptoms. And the same day I met Kathleen, I met the woman that is a chiropractor who had, as far as I know, still 100% cure rate on infertility. 92 out of 92 couples. And many of these had been to fertility clinics and been told there's something wrong and they will never have children. And others, they couldn't find anything wrong. And the main thing she did, in addition to chiropractic, put them on an organic diet. So I recommend watching the film Secret Ingredients as our #1 recommendation because we need to finish the tipping point. The tipping point is underway against GMOs. We need to get more and more people to say no so that the food companies absolutely do not try to hold on to any remaining GMOs. And we need to create an organic tidal wave so that anyone who has a digestive disorder, they know it's in the wind, they have to eat organic. Anyone that has an infertility issue, they have to eat organic. Anyone that's fatigued, brain fog, overweight, eat organic. We need to create those viral ideas. So I'm asking you, when we have a few secret ingredients, but if you go to secretingredientsmovie.com, you can see it online, you can click over to iTunes or Google Play or Amazon. Please share it with 1,000 of your closest personal friends. We'll be having a community showing license program with a toolkit set up on our website soon. We have been incredibly successful at educating people about the health dangers of GMOs. When I started 23 years ago, the answer was, what's a GMO? Now surveys show that 46% of Americans say they're trying to avoid GMOs. 46%. We don't need half that. We don't need a third of that to change the world. Because as soon as the food companies realize that their competitor on the same shelf saying non-GMO is stealing their customers, they will scramble, as they are now, to eliminate GMOs so that they can put non-GMO on their product. So I'm going to ask you to participate in this global transformation.